Hey guys, Freddy here. Welcome back to another retro RPG. And I'm back from my travels, so we're trying to get back into the old routine. And we've had a poll, and the winner of our first poll back from the break is the Complete Ranger's Handbook for Advanced Dungeons & Dragons 2nd edition. Now I'll cover that on the desktop in a wee second, and as usual I'll be back at the end of the video with some other channel related stuff and some other stuff about the poll. But I'd like to remind you, if you'd like to help the channel out, or you'd like to see these videos a week early, then there's a Patreon in the notes down below. So if you click on that and check it out, it'd be very much appreciated. But anyway, let's have a look at the Complete Ranger's Handbook. So, this is the Complete Ranger's Handbook, which came out from TSR in 1993 for Advanced Dungeons & Dragons 2nd edition, although it does support some 1st edition stuff, but we'll come to that as we go through. Now, like the other complete books, it's a Player's Handbook rules supplement, so it expands the Player's Handbook. But it kind of does it in a slightly different way to the other complete books that I've covered. The Complete Book of Elves and the Complete Book of Dwarves expanded elves and dwarves by exploring the species slightly, but mainly by giving you lots and lots of other subspecies. The Complete Book of Fighters explored the class slightly, but expanded it by giving you new fighting styles and lots of new option on gear, ways of modifying armor, etc. Which was fantastic, but this really explores the Ranger in a way that I liked a lot. Without having to add things, it adds abilities to what your Ranger can do by exploring the abilities they've already got. It does add kits, it does add some other stuff, but let's have a look through it, starting with the back cover. The Complete Ranger's Handbook, Forest Guardian, Border Runner, Bounty Hunter, and even more. The full potential of the Ranger class has never been plumbed. Until now, come learn the innermost secrets of one of the most popular AD&D character classes. Details on every part of the Ranger's life, from allied forest brethren to unusual outdoor equipment, with 15 new and exciting character kits. This book is an information-packed accessory for the AD&D 2nd edition game. A special appendix gives the rules for the original AD&D Ranger class. So, the cover, once again, is this plastic cover. Very rugged, very long-lasting. Even though this has been carried around in my bag to and from games for a decade during the 90s, you can see it still looks almost pristine. There's a couple of little buffs on it, but if this had just been a cardboard cover, it would be in tatters. Inside, we've got a table of contents, and we've got some full colour pages. Absolutely lovely artwork, as usual for TSR. They really did decorate their books in a lovely fashion. We've got the introduction and overview here, and then we're straight into how to use this handbook. Before we get started, there's information about 1st edition rules, proficiencies, pronouns, and then the Ranger requirements. So we're going through what the Player's Handbook says about Rangers here. You know, you've got pre-generated ability scores. They need to have a strength of at least 13, a dex of 13, constitution of 14, wisdom of 14, their prime requisites, the races that are allowed, alignments allowed, etc. All the standard stuff from AD&D. We've got the experience levels here, level improvements as you go up through the levels, your spell progression, what equipment they can use, although it details more heavily here whether you're using heavier armor, what abilities you get access to, but it's got the cost and the waste there, as well as the armor classes. You can see that their hide and shadows move silently, only work up to ring mail, as do their tracking, 2 weapon fighting styles, sorry, up to 4, the ring mail as well, how many attacks per round, their access to thief abilities, so the hide in shadows and move silently, racial adjustments, because elves are far more sneaky apparently, your dexterity adjustments, different types of kits and what they give you. So there's different types of kits which are far more sneaky, but there's also ones which are less so. Sea Rangers don't get access to hide in shadows and move silently at all. Going through, we talk about different types of terrain. So instead of Rangers just always being forest, you can have an aquatic ranger, Arctic rangers, desert, the standard forest, hill, jungle, mountain, plain, swamp. And it goes through these, choosing your primary terrain. Which one are you really good at? So if you wanted to have somebody who'd lived amongst the dwarves and was excellent in mountains, you could choose to have your ranger like that. Talk through the tracking abilities, what you get from them, all the different types of bonuses, whether it's interrupted or takes too long. Really fleshing out one of the key abilities of rangers. Identifying things from their tracks. Then we go into far more details about the hide in shadows, move silently. Going through your species enemy. So in the standard player's handbook, I believe you just get giants, whereas this fleshes out that you can have other species enemies. So you can be, instead of just gaining a bonus against giants, it can be 1T or human slavers. Goes through the animal empathy ability, so how they can befriend animals and what effects that has on wild animals and their attitudes. Domesticated animals, of course, are easier to tame. Got your nature lore and your survival abilities. It talks through strongholds, and then we're on to followers. One of the interesting things with rangers I always found in comparison to the others, where a human fighter's going up levels and getting third level fighters following you, then rangers end up getting just random animals. But we'll come on to that in a second. Absolutely lovely colour plate there of a ranger with a riding animal, which isn't just a horse. Using follower tables, how and when followers appear, acquiring specific followers, recognizing animal followers, and then we've got different types. So if you are an Arctic ranger, you can get things like great cat, snow leopard, wild dog or war dog, seals, selkies, walruses, common or dire wolves, wolverines. But if you're aquatic, you might get giant crabs, crocodiles, dolphins, as well as a much larger chance of getting just a human following you. But I always did find it amusing that while the fighter and paladin walk into combat flanked by their soldiers, followers, your ranger is walking in followed by a falcon and a badger. Great for combat. Not really, but really good for scouting out, I suppose. And we've got all the different types of creatures, different types of demi-human and human followers, helpful statistics, and go through the behavior of followers. What happens to them, reactions to others, disadvantages, training animal followers. As I said, it really fleshes out where animal followers was just briefly touched in the player's handbook. This goes into so much more, where you can train the animals up. You can get, I'm not sure that you can train a monkey to wash your dishes, but it seems to suggest that. There's high trainability where you can actually get them to use weapons. Successive tricks and tasks. When you decide to get rid of your followers or they decide to get rid of you. Then we're on to the kits section. So different types of kits. So we've got the Beastmaster here. They gain extra abilities over animals. 5% chance to hide in natural surroundings. Animal henchmen. Animal telepathy. Animal bonding. So somebody who's far better at taming animals than the usual ranger. Animal horde, special hindrances, empathic shock, unruly allies, outcast, no fortress, limited funds. Again, a beautiful colour plate. Got falconers, obviously they have special abilities with birds. Feralans, what happens to children who wander into the wilderness and never recovered? Or worse, children who are abandoned by their families, left in the woods to fend themselves. So a more feral version of the ranger. They get limited magic, limited money, but they get things like feral rage. They get extra abilities at climbing and speaking with animals. We've got forest runners, which are more classic ones. Then we've got giant killers. Greenwood rangers. This is certainly the most unusual ranger. It's a ranger who is basically become a tree. They can sprout extra limbs and things though, speak with plants, they can photosynthesize, they're buoyant because they're wood, they can root down to heal faster, they can grow extra limbs. It's a really interesting idea, kind of crazy, but that's kind of what the complete books were about, bringing in totally insane ideas and fleshing out the game so much. Got Guardians, the self-appointed protectors of the wilderness. Justifiers, Mountain Men, Pathfinders, can travel more quickly across different types of terrain. Sea Rangers, we've got Seekers, Stalkers, Wardens, who work for a noble, sort of protecting the noble's lands. And we talk through abandoning kits, if you want to just become an ordinary ranger. We've got Demi-Rangers, dual-classed rangers, multi-class, going through all of that. And we've gone to the proficiencies. So adding to the proficiencies, or at least adding to the descriptions. So we've got animal handling, animal training, riding, survival, tracking, just fleshing them out a bit more. We've got new proficiencies here: alertness, boating, camouflage, cartography, distance sense, falconry. Then we've got some new spells, which are more based about things like healing up animals, revitalizing them, seeing through their eyes. Polymorphing plants from one type into another. A few ranger-based magical items: icebox, portable shadow, string cage. Then we're on to ordinary clothing, transport, miscellaneous equipment, so different types of tents. If you ever wanted to use a scythe in combat, we've got that here with the stats. Scythe does 1d6 plus 1 damage against small and medium, or 1d8 against large. And we've got role-playing, so it goes through what it's like to be a ranger. You know, the different types of races, genders, social backgrounds, their ages, their alignments, how they become a ranger, self-determination, happenstance, misfits, common traits of the classic ranger, what their daily life is like, really fleshing out the life of a ranger, somebody who doesn't just sit in their castle or whatever, somebody who is far more venturing out into the wilderness every day. Their personality, defining characteristics. They can be merry or nurturing or obsessed, the mysterious rangers. Rangers and religion. Really nice colour plate this, by the way. Always found it a bit odd. Is the dragon-like creature in the swamp carrying him around? Or has he walked over its head without noticing? I've never been quite sure about that image, although I do really like it. But as I said, rangers and religion, so it's going through expressions of faith, rangers and druids, rangers and clerics, their interactions, foregatherings. So although they generally avoid organizations and communal events, many rangers participate in informal get-togethers called foregatherings or moots. So detailing what happens at those when a bunch of rangers get together. And then finally we've got a detail of the first edition ranger, going through what their abilities were, the experience, and how to basically use them in second edition if you wanted to use them instead of the first edition version. And on the back couple of pages we've got kit record sheet, so all the abilities in your kit, or a character record sheet. Now this is a bit bland. It's not the prettiest character sheet I've ever seen. It's a bit like an Excel spreadsheet. But I suppose it was practical, got all your information on there. I much prefer the nicer character sheets we've seen since. And then at the very back, we have an advert for the Amazing Engine system. One of the role-playing games that TSR brought out, which was somewhat like GURPS in introducing a variety of worlds using the same rules. So that was the Complete Ranger's Handbook, which won the poll on 30% of the vote, so a very popular choice. It was ahead of Corporate Shadow Files for Shadowrun, which was on 23%, the World of Warhammer Guidebook for the Warhammer World at 20%, the Alternity Games Master Guide for Alternity, funnily enough, on 15%, and Chromebook 3 for Cyberpunk 2020, which was only on 13%. Now, obviously, we've got another poll going this week, and it's onto a different shelf, but I've decided instead of working my way up this one, because we've actually covered a bunch of stuff in this bookcase, I've gone straight up onto the top shelf, which is a lot older stuff. So we've got Fields of Fire for Shadowrun from 1994, a Equipment and Mercenaries sourcebook. Interesting stuff. We've got Caravans of Mars for Space 1889. Now, the Space 1889 stuff's been pretty darn popular on the channel, and it's really cool stuff. It's from 1989. We've got Vulture Warriors of Dimension X for Paranoia, this sort of final part of the time travel Vulture Warriors of Dimension X series for the Paranoia role-playing game after they kind of wiped everything clear by the system crash and they were then resetting the timeline. We've got Lichmaster, or Lichmaster, however you want to pronounce it, for Warhammer, which came out in 1990. And we've got the Romulan Ship Recognition Manual for the Star Trek role-playing game from 1985. And it's the final of the 3 ship recognition manuals, because we've already done the Federation one and we've already done the Klingon one. So it'd be interesting to cover that and finish off all the ship recognition manuals for Star Trek. On other channel-related stuff, well, I'm starting to think about that I'm getting through most of the source books for the role-playing games I've got in my collection. Unless I keep going with standard ones, Dungeons & Dragons, Shadowrun, Star Wars, which make up the majority of my collection because they're the games that I've run in the past. I'm wondering what else to do, and I was thinking about starting to do a Retro Adventures video. So alternating the Retro RPGs with Retro Adventures and spending every alternate week going through an adventure for a game. Obviously, I don't want to reveal too much what's going on, but giving a review of what I think's done particularly well, interesting ideas, how well I think it's written, and whether it's worth checking out. So, please let me know in the comments down below if you think that's a good idea for a video. It'd be very much appreciated, because I've kind of been shy of doing adventures because I don't want to spoil them for people, but a lot of the adventures I've got are kind of older and kind of out of print, so people won't commonly come across them unless they deliberately search for them. And having videos letting people know what they're about so they know to search for them might be an idea. Please let me know if that'd be helpful to you, if you think that's a good idea. Other channel related stuff, well, as I said, I'm back from my hiatus when I've been away from home a lot and I've been just having to pack in making the videos. So I'll be looking at other stuff, whether there's going to be extra videos, whether there's going to be live streams and all that. But I'm only back this week, so I'm a bit rushed still. Anyway, I think I've whittled on for quite long enough as usual, so thank you very much for watching. But most of all, as always, you look after yourselves, and I'll catch you later. Bye now.